So this is where things go wrong online, because somewhere along the way, indifferent stopped being a technical, ethical term and became a lifestyle aesthetic. But this is this is a distortion, because is an ethical term being indifferent, and in this way is technical. But if you use that just like aesthetic on social media, a kind of lifestyle that is distorted, then it is turned into emotional denial. Emotional denial. So, somewhere along the way, what was strength turned into just silence. That's dangerous, because repression doesn't make you strong, it makes you brittle. And I want to give you also some scientific grounding for this, because Stoicism understood this thousands of years ago, but today this has been demonstrated by science, and especially neuroscience is very clear about this. Because what is saying in neuroscience is that emotions that are suppressed, they do not disappear. Actually, they go underground. They kind of leak out in stress responses, in impulsive decisions. You know, the burnout, the anxiety, the aggression, and eventually the collapse. So Stoicism never taught repression. It taught mastery. And mastery is active. Is something active. Is something that is trained. Is something that is embodied. That's why Stoicism requires you to embody this philosophy. It's not about reading more books or scrolling more quotes. If you don't actually truly take action of just one of those quotes. So, you should choose one quote if you want to practice Stoicism, and then embody by practicing that quote, that idea, that concept of Stoicism. And so, here is the key idea that I want you to hold on to through this entire episode that I am creating for you. And that is that Stoicism is like mathematics and physics, because you don't need to know the formulas consciously for gravity to work. Gravity works. You don't need to quote Galileo Galilei or Isaac Newton to fall off a cliff. You don't need to study equations for numbers to add up, because they are laws of nature, and the laws apply whether you believe in them or not. So, Stoicism is the same, because Stoicism is the natural law of rationality and human behavior, because it's the expression of the Logos. You are the expression of the Logos, because you are part of nature, and so you are required to live in accordance with nature. So, this also means something very uncomfortable for a lot of people. The person who applies Stoic principles instinctively without ever reading a single textbook about Stoicism is far more Stoic than the person who quotes Marcus Aurelius all day but melts down under pressure. You see, Stoicism is a name that we give to these ideas and to those who together met in a place that was the Stoa, that was a painted porch, a colonnade, and the Greek name was Stoa. And so they were called the Stoics. That means those who were meeting in that place. So it doesn't mean how you call it. Like mathematics, it doesn't mean how you call a certain pattern, or how you use, for example, a notation. If you want to use a notation for calculus, we are using the notation from Newton, but there was also another notation from Leibniz. And Leibniz discovered calculus exactly almost at the same time together with Newton. So it doesn't matter who discovered it, how they called it, or what notation they used. Calculus, is something that is it is nature. It is the language of nature. Galileo Galilei said that mathematics is the language of God, the language of nature, how nature uses the language to give meaning to the things around you. Because through mathematics, you can create a model of the world, and by creating this model, then you can interact through the formulas that mathematics and physics offer you to solve problems now. Because now you understand how things work rationally, and so now you can also make them work at your own advantage. And it is the same for Stoicism, because once you understand the Stoicism, you can those things that work, because I'm sure you applied Stoicism when things worked for you, because you were in alignment with the laws of nature. And when things didn't work, you were not applying Stoicism, but you were doing that unconsciously. But once you do that consciously, because you know about Stoicism and you apply Stoicism, then you can make things work out for you in a predictive way, like when you solve a problem because you know the formulas. And this is where business and finance Stoicism becomes real, because my channel is about the application of Stoicism to business and finance. Because in business, nobody cares about what philosophy you studied. They care about how you decide, how you react, how you lead under uncertainty. And so, now, let me say something that might ruffle some feathers. You cannot learn Stoicism by reading alone. You just can't. Because reading is useful, sure, but it's theory. But theory without practice is entertainment. It's just like you can't learn to swim by reading about swimming. You have to get in the water, you have to get in the pool, and you have to practice. And you have to practice under supervision so that you will not drown. And also, if you want to learn to ride a bike, you have to get on the bike. You can't just learn it by reading about how to ride a bike. You have to start practicing, and again, under supervision of someone who is there protecting you when you fall. And also is guarding you from your blind spots that by definition you cannot see because they are your blind spots. And that's why I believe in the coaching, and that's why I have this mission at the Stoic Coach. So this is very practical, and Stoicism is practical. And so it's also like, think about when you learn to lift weights at the gym. You don't do that by studying bodybuilding textbooks. You don't study a bodybuilding textbook and you grow your muscles. You have to go to the gym and do the reps. And it's not difficult, it's simple. It's simple what you have to do, but it's hard to do. That's why it's so hard for many people, because it requires commitment, it requires intention, and it requires also someone who is there to show you the right way to do the exercises and to make you execute when you don't feel like it. And that is again your coach, your personal trainer at the gym. And so this is for everything in life where you have to apply your knowledge to do something practical. Also when you have to learn to drive a car. You can't learn to drive without an instructor. Or if you want to fly an airplane, you can't fly an airplane just by reading a book. You have to get in the cockpit with a flight instructor and real hours in the cockpit. so that you practice. And you practice with someone who is there protecting you from your mistakes, because they can be deadly mistakes if you try to fly an airplane solo without first having practiced with an instructor close to you. And so, you see, you cannot learn Stoicism without practice, without feedback, and without guidance. And also without all the experiences, the adversities that life will offer you. Like said Seneca, the gods treat good men well by giving them the opportunities to practice their wisdom and their strength, because those opportunities are the adversities. And you welcome those adversities because those are the feedback that life offers you in order to refine your judgment and to grow your character through them. And so no man is more unhappy than he who never faced adversities, because he's been denied the privilege of proving himself. And also Seneca said that a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. And again Seneca said that ignis aurum probat, the gold is tested in the fire. There's not a way for you to know if the gold is gold. You have to test it, and you test it in the fire. And so Seneca said that exactly like the gold is tested in the fire, good men are tested by adversities. What a miserable life would you have without adversities? Think about it. Those are what makes you refine yourself, polish yourself like a gem through the friction that life offers you. And so you have to go through your life with intention, because also Marcus Aurelius said that your actions may be impeded, and your actions will be impeded. But there can be no impediment to our intentions and dispositions. That is what wrote Marcus Aurelius. Because your mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacles to our acting. And so the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, because what stands in the way is your way. You have to go through that. Like a captain of a ship has to go through the storm to prove that he is a captain. Because another saying is that every man is a sailor when the sea is calm. Think about it. When the sea is calm, everyone could say, I'm a sailor. But the real seamanship is revealed when there is the storm, when the winds are unfavorable. And so that is where the sailor becomes a true sailor, becomes a captain, the captain of your life. And so you cannot prove yourself unless you will face adversities. And be sure life will give you many opportunities to prove yourself, because you will go through adversities. But what you call adversities are the world around you that is giving you back information. Because when you operate in a world that first you don't know, because you came to this existence without any instruction manual, so you test yourself. And imagine the first sailors in ancient, in the Bronze Age. They were going without knowing where they would arrive. They were going across land, across the sea. And so they were discovering something and they were expecting something. But what they met was not what they were expecting. And so it is the same for you. Because when you want to do something in your life, you expect an outcome, a result. And then you don't get the outcome that you were expecting. And so you call it a failure. But actually that's feedback. And then you are confronted with something that forces you to grow your character. And you call it an adversity. Those are something you should be grateful for, because they're giving you feedback. It's like a cybernetic process of, if you know about cybernetics, is about receiving feedback from the environment. And so it's a loop of command and control. So you take action, you see the outcome of that action. If you think about a ballistic missile is ballistic. So it's shot and then it goes where it ends. But a cybernetic missile, it keeps changing its trajectory until it gets the target. And this is the Terminator mindset, because a cyborg, in cybernetics, and this applies to life, it applies to nature. In cybernetics, there is this loop of command and control where you keep changing your trajectory until you achieve your target. And so it's impossible for you not to achieve your target, whatever it is, even if you want to just make money. And so we use that in business and finance, for example. Because if you understand how nature works, because you understand the true Stoicism, then you can correct your trajectory by receiving the feedback through the outcomes that you keep iterating, because it's an iterating process, and through this loop that starts with you planning your next move, then taking action. You have to take action. You only acquire that next step through action. Action comes first. Because if you wait for the perfect moment, it will never arrive. You will never have all the information you need. Because you get the information, you acquire the information through action.
Look, you want me to fix the part of you that makes money, but it is attached to the rest, so this is going to take a little while.
Everyone needs a coach.
Eric has this management coach. Also coaches Steve Jobs.
That's a coach.
Yeah, definitely a coach.